Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Report, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
I'm Jim Stenivek along with Carol Master. Let's take a look at some stocks on the move this week. We're joined by Bloomberg Television Markets correspondent Nora Melinda. Nora, some big moves this week. You had a lot to choose from.
Right.
Where did you land?
Well, let's kick things off with some positive news. I'm looking at the biggest gainer in the S&P 500 this week. Can we guess? Intel. Ticker INTC.
But
I
I was only going to say it because I knew that was going to be your first stock. So that would have been cheating. And I don't want to cheat.
So it's a little bit of cheating, but hey, it's okay. It's okay. We could not stop talking about Intel this week. And of course, we know that it's been in the news for quite a few weeks. But this week in particular, what we were digging into is the fact that it had approached Apple about securing an investment. Particularly, this should be, of course, to help bolster some of its efforts toward being a bit, more competitive in the space right now as we think about a lot of people betting on U.S. made production. So, I mean, they've racked up everything, a stake from the government.
It's a lot
going on here.
What? You get a stake of Intel.
You get a stake of Intel. Who's next?
You get a stake.
Yeah.
You in the control
It's just
room.
going around, right?
Yeah.
But the point that has been made to us repeatedly by Ian King is that U.S. taxpayers own a portion of this company. We're the third largest shareholder.
Every time I do HDS, security ownership, on the Bloomberg terminal, it's a function. And I see the U.S. come up.
It's wild, isn't it?
So odd, right?
Yeah. So it's a little odd.
So does it become like a proxy for companies to invest like NVIDIA and perhaps Apple?
Yeah.
Right. Does this bring more license that we start seeing it expanding to maybe even other sectors?
As a way to say, hey, I'm making investments in the U.S.
Right. I mean, we'll just have to see how all this progresses.
It's a different way of supporting an industry, right? State sponsor, you could do it through tax. You could do it through, we've had, remember the big infrastructure spend and money that went to the semi space. Like there's different ways to do it, but this one is,
particularly interesting.
Yeah.
Gained 20% this week.
That's
Peter,
a lot.
We talked to Peter Cheer about this on our program this week. Check out the podcast if you did not hear that.
It's a great conversation.
And he made the point, and he made the point also on surveillance this week, that this is whether or not you agree with the U.S. government's role in taking stakes. That doesn't matter. That's not part of the conversation, he said.
Right.
That's the world we live in.
Right.
And that's what you need to get used to. And that's what you need to invest based on.
Kind of don't fight the trade.
Exactly.
Because that's the trade. Hey, did you know the week before you said Intel up 20% for this week overall? It was up almost 23% the week before. I mean,
there you go.
On a tear. All right, let's go to another big mover this week, CarMax.
CarMax on the downside here, the worst performing stock in the S&P 500 this week, lost about 23% in this week alone. Of course, we know that this is after it reported weaker than expected results. They were seeing a deepening strain in terms of the used car market. Interesting to me because I want to say some weeks ago, Tim and we were discussing the fact that it makes more sense, you would think, for consumers right now to go toward used cars over new ones, given rates and loans, all that good stuff. But apparently that is what is pressuring CarMax in particular this week, as we were seeing Wall Street analysts and investors really just coming out and saying, hey, this is not a good look right now for CarMax. Is it harder
to get a loan for a used car?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah,
but,
you lost me there.
But what I did find really interesting about the CarMax story is the company executives came out and essentially said, this is Bill Nash, CarMax's CEO. He said, borrowers with better credit scores have been sitting on the sidelines. The consumer has been distressed for a while. The company pointed to fallout from President Trump's tariffs and rising distress among consumers.
Tariffs still remain the story, no matter where you look.
Are we going to hear that from companies starting in October when they report earnings? Because we've heard kind of different things. Airlines say, the consumer's back.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll have to see, honestly, because I feel like, even in the data, we're wondering at what point will you actually see a large tariff impact when we think about economic data. And of course, as we have earnings season ramping up, what is it, next month already?
Yeah.
Next week.
Time flies.
Next week, we're going to get
Jeffries.
Is Jeffries next week?
Jeffries next week, right? Yeah. So
I believe you.
Oh, Carnival next week too.
Okay, so there we go.
Right,
trickling in already.
All right, got to talk EA.
Yes, let's finish things up with EA. This is Electronic Arts, and we did see some stuff that came through on this Friday. And essentially, what we're looking at this company for is the fact that it gained 12% this week. This is after talks that it's going to be taken private by a consortium. This is led by Silver Lake Management, as well as Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund. and Jared Kushner's Affinity Partners. So, I mean, they say that the takeover of Electronic Arts could announce a deal as soon as next week. JP Morgan here is the one working on a financing package for the buyers. But I mean, we do know that a lot of these gaming companies have been particularly pressured in recent months. So, I mean, this is some really interesting news coming out when we think about a massive takeover like this.
If it wasn't for the news late today, we would not be talking about it as one of the biggest gainers for the week.
The Stock Movers Report from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.